with his book and with discovering these fucking weird little dudes showing.
Okay.
So in the same month that the Mothman showed up, November 1966, what Jim Keith being the guy that wrote Casebook for the Men in Black, what Jim Keith called a quote-unquote professional woman.
That's very nice.
She had shoes on.
Yes, very good.
She had the first localized run-in with a strange character in Gallipolis, Ohio, just a 12-minute drive away from Point Pleasant.
Galapagos. What a place to visit.
Is it Gallipolis?
It's either Gallipolis or Gallipolis.
Gallipolis?
Gallipolis.
You know it's something else entirely, and we're going to get yelled at. It's going to be like Gully Belize or like some dumb shit.
We've got the nation's most shallow pool. Come wait in it.
So the professional woman said one night she was almost blinded by a flash of light as she was walking out of her office building. And when her eyes refocused, she saw a large, noiseless, cylindrical object land in the parking lot. She said two men with pointed noses, pointed chins, high cheekbones, and dark complexions walked out of the craft wearing coveralls. They approached her and asked her a few personal questions, then seemed to get stuck on one phrase.
They love the personal questions.
Yeah.
There's something about asking them, like, where do you live? What is this city? Are you married? Like, very strange. And then, again, what we've talked about in the previous incarnations of the Men in Black and the other examples, you seem to kind of be opening up against your will.
Wow. This is a perfect commercial for the tactical flashlight. I think that really could have saved her in this situation.
Because you know George Norrie's already spinning this, and I'm certain that he has spoken with Jim Keith, and he has spoken with any derivative of John Keel since then, being like, have you ever thought that maybe the Men in Black would be truly scared by my 7-foot tactical flashlight?
Gotta make that money somehow.
Well, over and over again, these guys asked the woman in a high-pitched, sing-song voice, quote,
What is your time? What is your time?
Even worse, these episodes haven't been about the Men in Black. They've been about musical theater nerds. Oh, the real horror is out there, and it's real.
So when the professional woman had no answer, the two men got into their craft and flew away. But interestingly, the professional woman saw the same two men dressed in normal clothing walking the streets of Gallipolis later on, and both of them simply nodded to her and kept walking.
We saw our answer on the internet. It is peanut butter and jelly time.
Great song, very catchy, and who doesn't love that kind of time of the day?
But it's very strange because it goes back to speaking to the idea that Jacques Vallée says that UFOs and these kind of experiences are supposed to help us consider our own place within the universe, which essentially means, like, they're asking about time to make us think about time. What is time?
Right.
What does it matter if I'm late? What does it matter if I take off my pants right now?
Sure.
Yeah, I ate a bunch of edibles before walking out the door today.
Right.
Who gives a fuck about Mark? I hate my stupid boss.
I think you might be on that Martin Lawrence weed, if that's happening. Deep cut to his life.
So you're saying that UFOs are traveling back in time to tell us to relax?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, dude. Fucking take a chill pill, man. And yes, maybe we'll scoop out some of your fucking eggs or put a dick sucking machine on you so that we can make our people stronger.
Frankie.
But at least you got to be fucking... Yeah, Frankie says relax.
Frankie says relax. Huh. All right. Well, I like that about them, then.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, after that last encounter with the cylindrical object, that January, a woman named Mary Heyer, who was most responsible for local Mothman journalism, got a visitor to the Athens Messenger, where her weekly column was published.
She took to this role. As soon as she became like the funnel for all UFO information, I honestly couldn't find a picture of what she looked like.
Okay.
But I do imagine,
Beautiful in every single way.
I just imagine it's the teapot from Beauty and the Beast.
Well, who doesn't love that? Who doesn't love that? I imagine her getting up for work in the morning, bringing her driver's seat chair up, her entire car is covered with old coffee cups and newspapers, and just like, gotta go to work, and she's already in the parking lot of the job because she doesn't have a home. She's always early.
She's ready to go.
If you never leave, you can't be late.
Well, she had already had a column in the Athens Messenger before all this shit even started about like weird shit that went on in the area. It was called, I think, Where the Rivers Meet or Where the Waters Flow or something like that, because Point Pleasant, and this is also an interesting paranormal thing, is that Point Pleasant sits on the where two rivers, the Ohio River and another river, meet. And a lot of times, paranormal activity we know will occur around bodies of water, and a lot of paranormal activities occur at these,
Meeting point.
forks of rivers.
Also at natural gas deposits, like our U.S. government. Man, full of hot air.
Well, Mary said the visitor she got at the Athens Messenger was only about 4.5 feet tall, had black hair cut in a bowl style, and he wore shoes with thick soles along with thick black glasses. Now, I wonder, could this have been, and this is just speculation, could this have been the dwarf from the Black Lodge?
Oh!
I don't know if he was working then.
Isn't that a little bit tall for the dwarf, though? Wasn't the dwarf like 2 feet tall?
Well, no, I'm not talking about the literal guy who played the dwarf in Twin Peaks. I'm talking about, because remember we talked in the last episode, we talked about the Moonchild, and we talked about what Aleister Crowley said was actually in the Black Lodge, and one of those was a dwarf who loved music. So it's possible that this dwarf could have been the dwarf from the Black Lodge doing a little bit of groundwork.
Well, yeah, well, he's more of like a phantom of the super spectrum of the little person from the Black Lodge.
Could be.
He's like an ultra fucking spiritual digital copy. Yeah. He also maybe reminds me of the looking like a man woman from Mad TV.
Could be. Yeah, maybe he's a failed child actor. They always grow real weird.
Yes. Head first.
Yeah.
Well, Hire said the man opened by asking for directions to a nearby town, but he soon became transfixed on a ballpoint pen laying on her desk, picking it up and looking at it like he'd never seen anything like it in his life.
You seen these people? You seen these people at the fucking bank? What do we got all day? Huh?
Yeah.
We got all fucking day?
It does remind me of Henry's bit. I think it was during Picton where...
Oh, yeah. Look at this pen. Look at it. Look at it. It's tits. Yeah.
That's a funny bit.
Well, Hire, she told him it's just a ballpoint pen. She said, just keep it. Yeah, just keep it, because she was just trying to get him out of there so she could get back to work.
Yeah, because he's a weird little backwards man sitting there just like staring, click, and she's just like, all right. Now, weirdness does make me horny. My name is Mary. Hi, hello. But honestly, this is not the time. Meet me at 6 o'clock at happy hour. Please get out of here.
Sure, well, he wanted it more than she needed it.
Well, as soon as she offered up the pen, he let out, she said it was it's like a high-pitched, shrieking cackle.
Yes, I love it, yes!
And that man went on to be the president of TD Bank. He has so many pens.
And then he's just scurried out the door, clutching the pen in his hand.
Oh, I wish to be so happy over such a small item.
Yes, he's truly at peace. Again, the aliens are here to say, Frankie, say relax.
All right.
Well, soon after that, Hire started getting the telltale Men in Black phone calls. You know, the ones where she'd answer the phone and there'd either be nothing but silence, or there'd be like electronic noise, or there'd be like these intermittent beeps, but no actual person would be on the other end.
John Keel actually brings up a good point about the beeps, which is then a thing he would go on to ask. Every single time he would meet somebody that had a UFO experience, either had a sighting or an abduction, he'd say, are you getting calls with beeps and weird breathing on it? And they would say, like, well, a lot of times they do hear the beeps, but a lot of times people who remember abduction scenarios, it starts with a series of beeps. So what if the beeps over the phone are hypnotizing you, essentially like getting you, like it's like a pre-suggestion for when later on you are walking, or maybe it's a post-suggestion. I don't know all the fucking prefixes.
Suggestion.
It's a suggestion.
Sure.
And then you walk in and you hear the beeps again, snap into trance state. And the aliens just come scoop you up, scrape your eggs, and toss you back on the street like they're the Hillside Stranglers.
Now, this is a serious question. If John Keel leads with that, have you heard the beeps? Have you heard the static? Is it possible he's suggesting those things to the people, and then they're like, oh, yeah,
No.
I've heard the beeps.
No!
Creating a world where the beeps exist.
No! I'm going to say it again. He also had a very in-depth breakdown of the difference between heavy breathing calls that you get from a Men in Black and the heavy breathing of the sex nut who supposedly masturbates while he listens to a female voice on the line.
Did he use the term sex nut?
Sex nut?
Really? Huh. What do you, I don't even want to ask. Sex nut.
It's just me.
Well, a couple months after Mary Hyre got that visit from the little guy, and then a couple months after she got started getting the phone calls, a UFO allegedly swept through her backyard with a searchlight. And pretty soon after that, Mary Hyre got her first visit from the Men in Black.
Cool.
Now, one interesting thing about the Men in Black of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, is that by all accounts, it was said that instead of having the pasty white complexion that many people have described in the past,
Right.
these Men in Black had darker skin and looked Asian.
Really?
Now, he's some kind of Asian. This is another interesting fact about John Keel is that what he'd like to do is he'd carry this card. And he's like, when you met the Men in Black, tell me, what was the race of the creature? Was it this? And it was just pictures of different people of different races. And he'd make them point to it. And the general consensus was Laplander.
What's a Laplander?
I don't know.
All right, interesting. So we're getting some more diversity in our Men in Black.
Very much
And
so.
as soon as we
Yes.
have women in black, which they already do.
We do.
All right, I like this.
Yeah. Well, Mary's first run-in was with two near-identical men who wore black overcoats and black suits. She said they showed up at her offices and asked her what she would do if someone told her to stop writing about the paranormal.
The specific quote was, what would you do if somebody ordered you to stop writing about UFOs?
Oh, yeah. And in a
Interesting.
And in a brassy response typical for Mary Hyre, she said she'd tell them to go to hell.
Kiss my grits.
Wow.
Yeah, she
Oh
is
my.
she says that a lot of people. And them Men in Black, they come in here, they try to tell me what me write about, and I say, you know what, you kiss it. You kiss it, miss it.
Oh, she was brassy as hell.
Oh my! Well, she doesn't want to go back to the Ohio brunch beat. Simply
No.
talking about avocado toast and Bloody Marys.
And after she said that, the Men in Black left without incident.
Oh.
But later that day, Mary was visited by another odd stranger. She said this man spoke with an intense stutter in a strange, indefinable accent and had freakishly long fingers.
Okay.
My name is Jake Brown, he announced in a hesitant manner. I am a UFO researcher. Oh. Mary pushed aside the pile of papers on her desk and studied him. The day was ending and she was ready to go home and try to get some sleep at last. After a brief, almost incoherent struggle to discuss UFO sightings, Brown stammered, What would you do if someone ordered you to stop writing about UFOs?
He does sound like Ren. It got to a real Ren and Stimpy moment there, and I really liked it.
Yeah, it ended with, I mean, it started with, sometimes my arms spin back, and then eventually went into, like, you idiot.
Yes, it did. Indiscernible accent.
So she's just wrapping up her day, and this guy comes in and just starts creeping on her.
Yeah, she asked he asked her the same questions that the twins from earlier that day had asked, but instead of giving the same answers, she thought, like, well, this is weird. I want to needle this guy for some information. So she asked, are you working with those two guys from earlier that day? And Jack said no, but he was friends with Gray Barker.
Oh.
Now, by this time, both Gray Barker and John Keel had descended upon Point Pleasant and had made Mary's acquaintance. So, taking the Gray Barker lead.
Wink, wink. I don't know if they made love.
They did not. They did not.
John
That was-
Keel's very professional, and he was always talking about how professional he was, and kept a low profile. He didn't want
Yep.
to shake things up. He didn't want to draw all attach. He didn't want to draw any attention to himself because he's a flashy city boy in this small country town.
No, I heard he had a trifold of all the races of the nation, of the world, really.
So, taking the Gray Barker lead, Mary asked if Jack knew John Keel. Now, this was apparently a sore spot for Jack.
Really?
This is what he said.
I used to think the world of Keel. Then a few minutes ago, I bought a magazine. He says he's seen UFOs himself. He's a liar.
Wow, he's in roast mode. He's going after John Keel.
But there's something about it. It's like, I know I'm joking about it, obviously, but it's kind of like we like doing the bit about talking about Freddy Freaker, right? Like you see this thing that's like super fucking obviously fake, and it's a weird thing. But if you were to see it in real life, like if the thing popped up in front of you, you'd lose your fucking mind.
Oh, you got to kick it, and then you got to burn it, and then you got to do a whole like seance ritual. I mean,
but the Men in Black, to me, like obviously I'm making a bit of a yuck about it.
Yeah.
But there's something about the incredible high strangeness of this thing to showing up in your office, because there's enough of these witnesses. This is now where I'm at in the research of this. There's enough of these witnesses that have seen this weird ass. I don't know what to say. Like, just I mean, I keep using the term high strangeness, that have seen this type of bullshit. That it's like, well, there's something to it in my mind.
strange forms all around.
Well, one of the things that I think makes Point Pleasant kind of unique to this sort of thing is that there was never really a panic. You know, like it wasn't like these like huge panics that you see a lot of times when they talk about like mass hysteria. There's usually like a huge panic. There were a couple times where like dudes loaded up their guns in the trucks and all drove out to the TNT factory. You got to, but for the most part, like the citizens are just like, what the fuck was that?
Could that be contributed to their more chillaxed attitudes? Being like, yo, relax, and then maybe that's why there wasn't the panic.
It would seem like is that when the original sightings for the Mothman came out and all these UFO sightings, and they would go to the police, is that it was such a small town that the police, for the most part, like believed them.
Yeah.
They were believing these kids coming in, and grown adults and professional people that are coming in and saying like, I'm seeing fucked up shit.
Right.
Like what's happening? And so these cops, bored as shit, were like, let's go get him.
Yeah,
let's get him. Like, they were ready, like, because they're like, that's action, man.
I would have been in the back of a pickup truck immediately, drinking Bud Light, because what you did in the world, I get so much. I never had a Bud Light lime in my life.
That is not true.
No, that is
you
true.
You are rewriting history.
No, by the way,
that's
Jackie.
What fascists do.
No,
Fascists
Jackie.
control the present to
please.
change the past.
Jackie Zabrowski, your sister, she said that she was drinking Bud Light lime.
She drinks whatever gets to her lips.
But that's who you thought of. But that sounds like a lot of fun.
It does.
Yeah.
Now, after the statement about Keel, Jack left Mary Hyre's office to visit an actual witness to the Mothman, a young woman named Connie Carpenter. Connie had seen the creature as she was driving home from church the previous November. She was among the favorite...
I'm trying to go to church. All right, I'll look at you.
Got to.
Well, she was among the first witnesses and had one of the most harrowing experiences. And she actually, besides, I think she talked to a couple of people about it, but then after that, she refused to talk about Mothman for like 30 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it a negative experience for her? Was she like sort of laughed out of town?
Oh, well, she got the aforementioned conjunctivitis pretty bad.
Well, that's what they're saying, is that the conjunctivitis comes with the light from its eyes. It seemed to form some kind of sunburn. And I guess that's what it's called, Klieg conjunctivitis, according to John Keel. And a part of it said you can also get it from being on the beach too long.
Yeah, interesting. It seems like kind of a weak super weapon for this Mothman creature.
Yes.
It's sort of on par with like Buzz from Toy Story, which I have to reference all the time.
Well, I'm not sure if it's like a weapon. I think it's just like a side effect. Because her eyes are like swollen up. They turned like her eyes swelled up. They turned red. She got a real nasty itch, and the whole thing lasted about like 2 weeks. It isn't an instant thing. It's something that happens afterwards.
I see.
Yes, there was a story of another a couple that were visited by UFO. They were necking, completely nude in the back of their car up by the TNT factory, and a UFO, a light shone into their car, and it went all over their fucking penis and the top of her vagina.
Really?
Yeah.
And
what happened is that the next day, they couldn't go to the police because they were stepping out on their significant others. But they were completely sunburned from head to toe, like violently, vividly sunburned.
Well, nothing more romantic than necking in the car in a parking lot of a TNT factory.
Honestly, have you tried it though?
No.
Well, when Jack showed up at Connie Carpenter's house, all he wanted to know was what kind of relationship existed between Mary Hyre and John Keel. He didn't want to know anything about the Mothman. Then Jack went over to the home of Mabel McDaniel, who had seen the Mothman soaring over Tiny's drive-in restaurant in January of 1967.
Oh, I want to go to Tiny's so bad.
But it's interesting is that the Men in Black in the last episode, in the example that is from Point Pleasant, was also named Tiny. Also named Tiny.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of? No, it's a burger place.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And once again, Jack talked his way inside by saying he was a friend of Heyer, Barker, and Keel. But this time, Jack had brought along an oversized tape recorder.
And it's weird. Jack Brown walked into, it was a party
Okay.
that they were having with friends and family. Like, it was like a barbecue. It was nice. Jack Brown shows up with his fucking bowl cut, and he's like, do you need any sides? Do you want macaroni salad?
Oh, I do.
Like, and they're like, oh, very good. It's like, and then it's just like a handful of just bark and stuff. And they're like, prepared it from Publix. And so he goes in, he brings up his fucking tape recorder, and
Right.
he's just like, fucking with it. Just like asking random questions that people be like, do you know John Keel? John Keel is a liar, like at this, which is like a very sweet Southern little party,
Right.
And it's just this fucking demon is in the middle of it.
I mean, I got to give him credit. Nowadays, it's much easier to do something like that. He's got to carry around this thing, probably like a radio flyer or something. I mean, it seems like kind of a fun party favor.
Oh, it's a great party favor, but the problem is that he's sticking the microphone in people's faces, but he didn't know how to turn the recorder on.
Oh,
Yeah, dude, he's not doing anything.
He's not actually he's not
turn it
recording
on.
anything, because they said that he sat it down and he just like fucked with it for a while, and he couldn't figure out how to use it, so he just went around and started asking people questions without ever turning it on.
But this guy's just sitting in the middle of your living room, all dressed up like he's from the Addams Family,
Right.
with a big tape recorder, and it's really fucking weird, man.
These huge, long, skinny fingers.
Yeah.
Just remember, again, it's like an entity is playing make-believe as an FBI agent.
Right. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and still, he did not ask any questions about the Mothman or any questions about the UFOs, because by this time, like, the UFO sightings are just coming left and right in Point Pleasant. The only thing he wanted to know was what Mary Heyer would do should someone ask her to stop reporting on the paranormal.
So she's gotten this question multiple times now. And
Yes, from many tiny weird men.
Yeah,
and each time it's just kiss my ass.
And now the weird tiny men are asking strangers what they think Mary Heyer would do.
And they're like, I'll give you the Mary Heyer answer. No,
Leave her alone.
And he kept repeating one sentence over and over again. And he'd repeat the sentence to every witness he visited. He said,
they are not hostile. They are not hostile.
the UFOs.
They are not hostile. Well, we don't know what he's just saying. We
He's
don't
just
know what
saying
he's
that.
referring to. He's just saying they are not hostile, which is very similar to the Woodrow Derenberger story when he was met by a creature named Indrid Cold. That when he showed up, when Indrid Cold basically mentally told him to roll down his window so he could speak at him, and he was like, "Do not worry. We are from a country far weaker than yours."
And then I'm going to put a little humor in here with a really funny joke there. He rolled down she rolled down her window, and then he said, "You got any Grey Poupon?" Remember those commercials?
This isn't a joke, Kissel. Honestly, it gets to a
great.
point, man, where
Well,
it's just like, it's not a joke. And
well,
you know what?
Grey
If you
Poupon.
didn't have the Grey Poupon, you know what they're going to do? They're going to make some Grey Poupon.
That was always a funny name for a condiment.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, titchy bum. Remember that?
I remember that.
Well, after Jack Brown showed up, Point Pleasant seemed to be overrun with UFO sightings coupled with encounters with strange men. One witness saw a UFO as he was driving home. Then, when he was driving down the same stretch of road a week later, he saw a man standing in the exact spot where the sighting had occurred.
Jeez.
And the witness said the mystery man was very tan and was wearing an unidentified uniform. And in the mystery man's hand was a box with a large dial affixed, and a wire was running from the box to the other man's hand.
What could it be?
I
A
don't
box full
know.
of TNT? Maybe the TNT factory is nearby.
No, dude, it's stuff. It's like, if it's real, if it's not just a bunch of people afraid of road workers, it's afraid of somebody that is like, you're basically looking at somebody that's looked at research equipment from either a mental picture or looked at somebody using like something like a radiometer or something, and he says like that's what official men use.
Anyway, it's a prop comedian or anything like that.
Well, Jim Keith has a very interesting theory about all this type of stuff and why it was so strange and why none of it seemed to make sense and why there were so many of these guys around.
Yeah.
Is that Jim Keith, one of his theories was that this was actually a test run for a secret government PSYOPs program.
Oh, yes. I mean, we'll get to that, though, because there's more of that I would even cover. I do believe that it is the CIA propagating their own paranoia that they're creating by throwing in, like, ringers in there to make people paranoid all the time.
Yeah, just weird stuff that people like this. I mean, I think this, like, big box with a big dial that, like, with a wire running out of it, I think this is a great example of they're just trying to confuse people. And if you see something that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, then it's going to make you paranoid. You're going to think about nothing else.
So they're kind of Truman showing this entire town with, like, macabre, weird stuff.
Somewhat.
Is this guy working, like, is he, like, 9 to 5? I stand, like, what do you do all day? Like, I stand holding this box on the side of the highway until 4:30 p.m.
You're a field man for the CIA. I don't think you ask a lot of questions. I think you get the uniform, you put it on, you stand there until they tell you to stop, and then the van comes and picks you up and takes you back to Richmond, Virginia.
Great place. Trippy stuff.
Well, after that, Men in Black just started showing up around town. In August, a witness said he saw 2 Asian-looking men dressed all in black grinning at him. And he said they had trouble walking away, like they were confused or drunk.
It's very strange because they keep saying Asian-looking type man, but they also say deeply, deeply tan, which is interesting, and it's the strange-shaped heads and bad haircuts. But it also just sounds like tourists.
Could be.
And so it's like, but I don't know how they got to Point Pleasant except for all the UFO talk. So that's the other thing, too, is that there's a lot of UFO talk about Point Pleasant. So I imagine if people are showing up to kind of see what the hubbub's all about.
Yeah.
But the Men in Black stuff just increases as it goes.
Right. Well, I would assume the good people of Point Pleasant understand what human form looks like and what these sort of